Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery, a video channel about making all things beautiful and useful. My name is Anushka and you can find me elsewhere online as the Crimson Stitchery. That's my username on Instagram. We also have a Ravelry group. Links for everything that I mention as usual can be found in the down bar here on YouTube. And I would like to begin this episode by thanking everybody who supports the Crimson Stitchery financially over on Patreon and also via Ko-fi. Thank you so much to all of my wonderful supporters who continue to help me keep the Crimson Stitchery alive with your actual money. Thank you so much. It's incredibly generous of you and you are deeply appreciated. If you enjoy the Crimson Stitchery and you've been considering getting involved, you can support me with a monthly membership subscription at patreon.com/the Crimson Stitchery in return for a whole host of benefits, including access to a private Discord server where you can meet lots of really, really nice people and share your projects and get involved more. So in this episode, honestly, I don't know where the time has gone. It feels like I only just recorded my last vlog, but actually it's been 3 or 4 weeks and I've actually got not one but 2 finished projects. So I thought, let me go ahead and record. But just before I start talking about my knitting projects, just need to draw your attention to these lovely, lovely, beautiful peonies from my garden that have just opened up. It's been raining absolutely non-stop here in London. Just as I said the word rain, more started. So I cut a couple of buds out so that they could be enjoyed before they got rained on even more. And it doesn't want to focus, but you can see I've got 2 in a kind of favourite Barbie pink and 2 in a deep, deep magenta red. And yeah, peony season is with us, rather late, so we'll continue to enjoy those there. So my finished object in my knitting basket here, or out of it rather, I finished my Harley sweater. Hooray! Here it is. So if I get close to the camera again, you can see. I don't think I'd even cast this on. No, I hadn't cast this on last episode because the yarn had got delayed arriving, no thanks to the very, very annoying people at the courier service who have continued to annoy me, but I won't keep going into that. But yes, I have finally finished my entrelac super bulky jumper. So I talked about this quite a lot in recent episodes because I was invited to join the Knit Collage Spring Knit Along, and by the way, thank you so much to everybody who did click through my link over to Knit Collage. I hope that you guys have received your projects, hope that you didn't have the same customs issues that I did, and I hope that you're enjoying making them. And I've finished! So this project came as part of the kit for the knit along, and it's the first time that I'd ever participated, and I don't know what else to say apart from I finished, because I found this project to be completely addictive and I really, really enjoyed it. Super bulky yarn, hand spun, so it's really this gorgeous thick and thin texture of the Knit Collage yarns, entrelac. And there was just something about it where I just cast on and it was addictive. I just couldn't stop doing it. So this is the jumper that I made using the yarns from the kit. It's going to become a gift for my sister. And at first I wasn't 100% sure about it. I always have a moment in my projects where I start to kind of second guess myself. I don't know if you guys ever have that as well. But now that it's all finally come together, it looks really, really good. I love the fact that I've got the little bits of yellow and pink and orange that kind of pop through with all of the blues. And then this one was my favourite because it had so many different colours and it was extremely thick and thin. And then the blues are more of a solid colour, but they've got a lurex thread that I think you can just about see sparkling. I made an alteration which was to add a little wedge of short rows. I think it was only 2 or maybe 4 rows, hardly anything, at the back neck, just to bring that up a little bit. but apart from that, I pretty much followed the pattern. When I first ordered the kit, I had actually planned to make a bigger size because I really liked how it looked oversized. But then I'm not quite sure what happened. I think I forgot about that decision and then just sort of cast on for a smaller size, and then my gauge was slightly, very, very slightly tighter than the recommended. So it has turned out a little bit smaller. I haven't blocked it. I think it would stretch out and expand a bit with blocking, but it's just come out looking really nice. So yeah, this is a present for my sister, who's much younger than me, but she is really pleased with herself because she's managed to grow 1 centimetre taller than me. Really happy about this. So on me it's pretty cropped, but I think on her obviously it will be even more cropped. Or actually I think she might be longer than me in the leg rather than the body, but I think it should look quite good. We haven't got the same figure or colouring actually, don't look that alike at all actually. But I think it will suit her, especially these colours are definitely her cup of tea because she's got much fairer complexion than me. So yeah, I think that like these blues and oranges will really pop on her. And in fact, I liked knitting the Harley sweater so much that I made another one, a second Harley sweater in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I just made another one and I just started it and kept knitting it and then finished it and it was done. Honestly, I don't know what it is about this pattern that was just so addictive. I could not stop doing it. I think I spent 10 days on this one, the first one, and then the next 10 days on the next one. And then I think I spent a couple of days doing the finishing because there are a lot of ends to weave in and so on and so forth, and then the neckband to do. And then they were done and I was like, oh, that's all I've done in the last month is make 2 sweaters. They're not my own designs, they're not my own patterns. They might not even be for me, but yeah, so I kind of feel a bit stunned really, I think. Like, just 2 projects to talk about, but they're 2 completely finished projects. So another Harley sweater. Now this one, as you can see, it's looks a tiny bit smaller, but this one is made all out of leftovers. So because I changed my mind about what size I wanted to use, I had a bit of leftover yarn. Actually, I had quite a bit. I've got 3 full skeins of the contrast yarns here left over, and then like bits and bobs as well. So I put some of those bits and bobs in this jumper, including this. This was the oil slick one that I said was my favourite, very thick and thin. And then there's a bit of the orange left over. There's a bit of pink left over from my other knit collage project that you might recall from last month. And then what I ended up using for the main body of the sweater was all of this dark grey. Now this here, it's all yarn that I unravelled from my first ever adult jumper sweater that I knit for myself a long time ago, when I was 14, so when I started knitting. And I had unravelled it quite a while ago because I just wasn't wearing it anymore. I liked it at the time and then I just didn't like it anymore, so I just unravelled it and I had the yarn sitting around and it was in one of those kind of shameful bags that hopefully I'm not the only person having that. So just thinking about how to phrase this. Last year I did my Stashless 2020 exercise. As part of that I unravelled quite a few sweaters and washed the yarns and stuff. And then it was that situation where as I was searching out my stash, I was finding more and more yarn just kind of shoved into nooks and crannies that was a bit embarrassing and annoying because every time I thought I tidied it all away, I'd just find other bits and bobs. So people have asked me to do an updated Flash My Stash, and I might do that next month actually, especially now that I've used up this shameful bag, because it was just literally a bag that was skulking around for ages, and I was trying to think of what to do with it because after I unravelled the sweater, because it was a bulky yarn, single ply, alpaca and wool blend, it was quite hairy, and the act of unravelling and then washing, I just lost a lot of fibre through it, and I wasn't convinced that it was going to be enough fibre to knit another jumper on its own. So then I thought, actually, wouldn't it be amazing as the background to another Harley sweater? So this was the first time that I'd knit entrelac, and it wasn't that difficult, and I really liked doing it at this super bulky gauge. I think it was 9 stitches to the 4 inches or 8 stitches or something like that, hardly anything. The tension was super big. So when it came to this one, my leftovers, so this one at the bottom here, this main kind of dusky grey, charcoaly grey, I held double, and then actually I held it triple. I'm just laughing. I was basically trying to get rid of as many yarns as possible. And with the entrelac, obviously the conceit is the weaving going in and out, but the way that it's the fabric technique is constructed is actually horizontally. So you do it in stripes effectively. But there is the idea that actually there's a conceit of the weaving, the warp and the weft going across it. So with this jumper, I thought I would play with that conceit slightly. So every now and then I did a vertical stripe. So you can see this black that starts at the wrist, and then that is a pretend that it's one like long ribbon of black that's been woven through the arm. And I did it on this one too, but I did this one with black mohair, so it's a lot more subtle. But yeah, I basically held as many yarns as I could together. So I was trying to get different effects. So in this one I held some gold 4-ply lurex that I had left over from my Brandy Butter and Ginger Snaps design, where I used it as a trimming. I had a bit of that, so I thought, because all of the original knit collage yarns, quite a lot of them had lurex threads spun in, so then I thought, okay, I'll hold my lurex yarn, then it's got a bit of sparkle. And then here we've got grey and black, so that kind of dulled it down slightly. So when I had you can see there's a different effect here. It's the same main charcoal grey, but for the stripes where it was just plain grey, I held a black mohair thread along with it, mohair silk, and that just dulled it down slightly. And then when I had the gold sparkle, I didn't. So that's kind of, you can kind of see that's more of the actual colour than that one there has been dulled down. I had this dusky pink super bulky yarn that's left over from another bulky sweater that I did last year. Then I had this leftovers, this multicoloured one. Did the same thing with the neck. I did a wedge there. And then I put in some of the mango-y kind of apricot colour at the back. I kind of had a lot more randoms, and then here's a very random silver. What else is there? Oh yeah, there's this blues and greens metallics that you might recognise from my cobweb sweater that I shared a couple of episodes ago. So like it was real leftovers and odds and ends. And it's come out a little bit smaller as well. It's even shorter, and again I haven't blocked it, you know, I could pull it down. But that's my second jumper. I feel like this is the fastest episode ever. So it was really nice doing this project with all of those scraps. Oh yeah, I was going to show you. So here is the leftovers that I've got. And this bag was full, like stuffed full of all of the contrast yarns. And then I had another bag, basically the same size, that was stuffed full of the grey, super bulky. So still got a lot of leftovers to work through. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these other knit collage yarns, because as I said, they're my sister's colours, really not mine. But maybe I could do her like a cushion or something like that. Yeah, we'll have to get our thinking caps on about that. If you have any suggestions for fun little super bulky projects, then yeah, do let me know. This is definitely my favourite, this Sweet Papaya. It's called Daisy Chain. It's my favourite yarn because it's got the fabric in it, it's got all the different colours and the sparkles, and it's got the daisies. I love this fluorescent thread. So I'm kind of like hoarding this little skein. I think this one's only 50 grams, but the rest are the full 100 grams, so they're really big. Yeah, just like was finished. I'm pretty happy. So what was I saying? That I was really enjoying finally putting to use a lot of these scraps and just pulling stuff together. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention was this stripe here, where I held together 4, it's a bit dark now because it's just started raining again, but I held together 4 4-ply yarns, 4-ply weight yarns. So I had a sock yarn, a wool, and then a couple of strands of Shetland wool, and then that's given it a really nice kind of crunkled effect. And the way that this second jumper started was with the gentle knitter, who's Nicole. She made this post on Instagram that said that she was doing this sweater as well, Harley, but she was just going to do it in her favourite kind of sandy colour in order to give the effect of the basket weave. And I thought that was such a nice idea to really play with the interweaving texture just of the stitch pattern. And I thought, oh, I'd really like to do that. And I found all this grey yarn, and I initially thought, oh, okay, I could have it mostly grey, but different shades of grey, hence why I blended in the black mohair with one grey, I blended in the bright gold sparkle with another, just to give different, kind of playing with light differently through the grey. Then I held 4 together to make another grey, and I thought I'd just do little pops of colour, and then I had my conceit of the black vertical, oh, can you see it? Yeah. This black vertical stripe running through the sleeves, but I'm not 100% sure what happened, but it's come out feeling incredibly colourful, it's great. I don't mind it being colourful, but Nicole, if you're watching, I tried. I tried to make it subtle and neutral, but somehow it ended up looking mad. And I think especially because I've got this hand spun right up against the collarbone, whereas nothing else is hand spun in it, so the texture of the hand spun thick and thin, it just jumps out, really like jumps out, especially in person. Obviously I could have dulled it down if I hadn't done the neckband in pink, but at that point I was like kind of accepted that it had become very colourful, and I thought, okay, I'll just go with it and add in some pink to tie it together. But yeah, there are my 2 Harley sweaters. I'm just laughing, like, since I've last seen you, I've just made 2 jumpers. They've just kind of turned up. So absolutely delighted to make something out of yarn that was kind of stressing me out and annoying me, actually. And I made a post on Instagram about this, that how when you have the right pattern and sort of the right confidence, you know, you can just bring all of these yarns together and make something really quite amazing. And making this sweater is definitely, it's not something that I would have thought I would have done, but it was definitely something that I needed to do, I think. Honestly, I was addicted to doing this knitting. I just could not stop doing it. I'd just like to say a quick thank you to everyone who left me a nice comment on my last month's vlog, and who was very understanding. I am going to be honest with you, I've been having a bit of a tough time this year. I've alluded to that. I've spoken about some of the reasons why, but not all of them. And you know, partly some of the things that I need to do to sort things out is that I need to do a bit less and rest. And I think knitting these 2 jumpers was just part of that, and I really enjoyed doing it. Yeah, I really couldn't stop. It was just so nice to be doing something different and moving my hands in different ways, because the yarn is so big. You're using 10mm needles, so it's like, you know, the size of my fingers. They're so big. And you're, you know, because it's so big and it's heavier, you're kind of moving your arms in different ways, because I'm so used to just doing things with the fine motor skills, just with my digits, and, you know, thin yarns. I'm kind of moving quite swiftly through that. But actually I was moving much more slowly through the heavy yarns. And because it was super bulky, you know, the project still got finished really quickly because there were fewer stitches physically in the garment. But yeah, just nice to kind of find a different action and a different way to engage in the craft. So in some ways, even though I never thought I'd make these jumpers this year, I so enjoyed it, and I kind of found it very energizing as well. So I definitely recommend just trying something new. I think that I'm going to wear this grey jumper for a little bit, and then I think I'm going to give it away as a gift to one of my best friends who has been campaigning for hand knit gifts. But we're the same age. I've got a big birthday coming up this year, which means that in another half a year after my 30th, it will be her 30th. So I could give it to her for that. I think a 30th birthday warrants a big hand knitted jumper. But I'll probably wear it for a bit, maybe just around the house or just out casually. She won't mind. She really won't. We've shared clothes before. And then yeah, I think I might just give it away. And there's something that feels really loving about that. You know, I took all of these yarns that were either leftovers from projects that I liked, or, you know, this unravelled yarn for my first jumper. And then, you know, thank you so much to Knit Collage, Amy, if you're watching. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed this experience, and sort of having this experience that I've really enjoyed creating and sort of thinking about knitting as my craft in a different way physically. And then just to make this jumper because it was just a fun thing to do and because I fancied doing it. And then, I don't know, there's something that feels really just kind and sweet that I could just give this to a friend. I know that she'll like it. So my two Harley jumpers. Is anyone out there doing Stashless 2021, or did you do Stashless 2020, and how are you getting on with that? We do have a chatter thread. It's very active in our Ravelry group. We have an Instagram hashtag, and we're also doing that over on Discord for Patreon supporters. And I'm the most active on Discord at the moment. So yeah, let me know if you've been following that. It's like a thought exercise really, and how you've been finding it, because I'm really enjoying it and glad that I'm still doing it. I've acquired quite a lot of yarn this year because I was doing a lot of designing, and I needed to use yarn. You know, I needed to do that with yarn that's still in production and to get yarn support from companies. And it's really amazing to be able to work with other companies and build those bridges, which is something that I'm really grateful to my patrons for kind of allowing me to have the space and time to do that. But so I've brought a lot of yarn into my home for the designing and had a lot of leftovers, and it felt in some ways like maybe I'd fallen off the wagon slightly when it comes to Stashless 2021. But actually just doing this project kind of made me feel all of the joy and the delight for what it means to do the Stashless challenge and to just push yourself and push your limitations. And if you haven't already seen it, I'll link my video that I made about the main lessons and takeaways that I had for my Stashless year up there. So on that note, the other thing I've been knitting on is this pair of sleeves. So I've done the second sleeve. I need to do a few more calculations for my sleeve cap before I can put my crazy jumper together. And then after that, I'll be looking for test knitters. So thank you to everyone who's already signed up for the test knitters mailing list. If you want to make something really dramatic and help me develop my patterns, then that's probably end of June it will probably be ready. So do sign up if that interests you. So I did that knitting, and somehow these sleeves felt really slow after I did this Harley, when they shouldn't have, because my pink ones were just round and round and round, whereas with the entrelac you're making every square at a time. Just a different way of knitting. So I did that. Then the last project is, I mentioned last time that I wanted to use up some more sock yarn leftovers. So here I have cast on more pink, fluorescent pink trainer sock, which is my Twister Lolly Socks pattern. So it's just short. So it's using a stray 50-gram ball of sock yarn plus leftovers that I already had. So that will be really nice. And then that's it. So I've got half a sock, I've got 2 jumpers and a sleeve is what I've been knitting on since last time. And yeah, I think that last year I ploughed through the pandemic and it was like keep going, keep going, keep going. And then this year I've sort of realised that that completely exhausted me, and then I've had just some stuff happening that I'm not really going to go into. And so this year has sort of been about taking it slow, and I'm finding that I need to do that, and I'm trying to be much more forgiving of myself. I'm still going to be here, I'm still going to be making videos, and I'm still active online, but just a bit less than I thought I was going to be able to. I think I just thought I could do more and more and more and more and more forever, and actually I need to chill out and do a bit less so that I don't burn out. And that includes, you know, the speed at which I'm able to create my knitting patterns and do my designing, and so on and so forth. And I've just accepted that and decided to stop putting too much pressure on myself. So thank you for understanding, and they'll be ready when they're ready, and they're still in the works behind the scenes. So I'll keep you updated on that. And if you want to stay in the loop about what's going on at the Crimson Stitchery, do sign up for my newsletter. I send it out at the beginning of every month, and that's the best way to keep up to date. On the subject of the newsletter, in conversational threads today, I want to do a little PSA, public service announcement, on a theme that I wrote about in last month's newsletter, and it's a bit serious, so I guess I can offer a trigger warning. Because I'm going to talk about sexual harassment. Yeah, I wrote about this in my last newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed, my newsletters are very wordy. I talk about everything that's going on. I kind of meditate on what's going on in life, in the world, and so on and so forth. And it's a really nice chance for me to kind of explore writing, because I don't write a public blog. So I do that kind of thing in the newsletter instead. So if you like having like a thing to read over a cup of tea, then that's what my newsletters are for. I talked about how I was facing my fears in a way after I discovered that a young girl was raped in my local area, and I talked about how I was really upset about that, and how it had taken me a really long time to just feel comfortable being, you know, outside in the park where the attack happened, and sort of how that had affected me. Yeah, it just meant that I just basically didn't want to go outside, didn't want to go jogging, and felt really uncomfortable, and how I was confused about the huge disconnect between the kind of massive celebrity-led campaigns such as #MeToo and what that actually means for people's lived experience on a day-to-day level, and the kind of troubling things that happen online as well as offline. So unfortunately, I think it was about 10 days ago now at the time of recording, I took a walk in the park. It was evening, it was light, it was bright outside, there were people around, and unfortunately I got approached by a pervert. So I've given you a kind of trigger warning. I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm fine, don't worry. And I would say, beware if you have like young children listening, but actually, the world is a dangerous and scary place, and people kind of need to be prepared. So what happened was that I was walking in the park, and I was basically approached by a man who was masturbating at me. He didn't have it out, it was underneath his clothes, but it was very, very clear what was going on. He then, proceeded to leer at me. I tried to get away from him, but then he proceeded to follow me out of the park and try and follow me home, essentially. And it was really, really creepy, because anytime I passed another pedestrian outside, he basically would turn around and disappear, or duck down, or I couldn't see him anymore, or act like he was walking in the opposite direction. But then when I was on my own, he was behind me again. It was pretty unpleasant. Eventually I managed to shake him off. I'm okay, I'm unhurt. He didn't touch me physically in any way. He did try and talk to me, And yeah, it wasn't very nice. And the reason that I am saying this on the podcast is because I got home, I was a bit grossed out and I didn't really know what to make of it, but I was quite upset because I knew that there had been a rape in the park, which is where I was walking, about 3 months back. And so after my partner got home and I told him what happened, and my partner was really upset as well, I said, actually, there's been a rape in the park. I'm going to call the police and report it to the police. So I did that. I tried to call the Metropolitan Police, but turns out you have to do everything online these days. So I filled out a form online, but to their credit, they got back to me within 20 minutes. You know, that's my experience of what happened. And then I made a statement on the phone. I had a written statement. The next day, I got several missed calls. And the reason that I'm sharing this is because they took my incident completely seriously. The police were great, actually. They took me seriously on the phone. They took me seriously in writing. The very next morning, I had a detective call me and take another statement and kind of run through a lot of stuff about the perpetrator and so on and so forth. I was then asked to go down to the local police station in person to make a statement. Unfortunately, that took best part of 3.5 hours. I guess they're short-staffed. I don't know. But at no point did anyone make me feel like I wasn't making a valid complaint. Because that's a real fear, right? Because I wasn't physically attacked, I was unharmed. I was very grossed out and unsettled and not particularly happy. I was completely drained by the whole incident and just dealing with the police. Honestly, I had so many phone calls, which is good, but yeah, it was just very tiring, kind of having to go through an incident again and again and again, and you start to doubt yourself, even though you know that you were right, but you start to doubt yourself and you start to feel false memories, you know? It's a real thing, false memories. You start to feel the idea of suggestions, the idea of your mind kind of filling faces and shapes and movements in, and you have to, you know, keep going back and forth. And yeah, just, it was a really draining experience. But I'm sharing this because I would just like to encourage everybody to take this kind of thing really seriously. You know, at no point did anyone in the police force, and I dealt with several people in the police, the majority of them were all men, and they were all completely empathetic, and you know, they really made me feel validated, you know, and at no point did anyone say to me, oh, well, you didn't actually see his organs, so did it really happen? You know, no one ever said that to me. They took it completely seriously. And then again, as I said, I had the detective of this like special division for sexual violence and sexual crimes, get in touch with me like quite a lot, through email and through phone call. And yeah, that was really, really, really reassuring. So the reason that I'm sharing this is because I had felt in myself that, you know, my first instinct wasn't to report it to the police. My first instinct was to just kind of try and shake it off, like have a shower, and just kind of try and forget about it. But it was only because I knew that there'd been an assault already in the local area that I thought, I've got to report this officially. This should be in the statistics. People should know that this is going on, and it's not innocuous. Like, you know, and everybody should have the right, or does actually legally have the right, to walk around in their local area without being, you know, in fear of harm. And you know, it's not that the pervert that approached me is not necessarily the same person that, you know, raped someone necessarily, but this kind of behaviour is part of, it's all on the same spectrum that views, you know, that doesn't accord respect to other people's body and other people's autonomy. So last week my video on my YouTube channel was all about making clothing to, you know, empower yourself and embrace developing a positive and loving relationship with your own body. And I think that this, you know, announcement that I'm making now is very much along the same lines, because, you know, my attitude was, I enjoy the right to be alive, and we should be able to live our lives, you know, without, I think, fear of, you know, just being attacked for like the basic thing of just being in public space, just the basic fact of occupying space in the world. Yeah, that's it really, you know, and I'm a confident person with, you know, a lot of self-esteem and a happy relationship with my body most of the time, not all of the time. I am human, and I'm not really gonna, you know, I don't really want to make a laundry list of like the flaws of all the things that I don't like about myself, because I don't think that that's helpful. But it was a really horrible feeling, and I'm just so relieved and grateful that, like, you know, the law enforcement took me completely seriously. I doubt they're going to find the guy. That's not really the point. But you hear so many horror stories of what happens to women when they go and report rape or sexual harassment, and how they get, you know, they get laughed at, or they get told that, you know, oh, you should be flattered. It's just a bit of, you know, like a bit of catcalling is like flattery. But catcalling is like the beginning, you know, of this whole kind of cesspit of unfair and inappropriate activities that impinge on people's lives, and none of it is okay. It's just not okay. So I'm sharing this because I think that it's a useful reminder, actually, that I don't think that we can all be sitting around patting ourselves on the back and saying how great, you know, things have come for women or whatever in the West or whatever. I think that we need to keep believing people and supporting people and encouraging people to take incidences seriously, because if I guess in some way, because I knew that there had been an attack in the area, I felt like I was in some small way doing something for other women to just make this official report. Obviously, you know, the worse the crime statistics are, I guess that the more money the local kind of, you know, investigative and services or whatever can get. Right. I think the reason that I'm laughing is just because I've been brought up to feel really mistrustful of the police. And as I get older, you know, you only hear worse and worse and worse things about the police. Especially, like, my other half is black as well, and has told me, you know, stuff that has happened to him. Yeah, I think I was just so pleasantly surprised and relieved that a bunch of people from different departments, you know, different branches, they all just listened to me. And yeah, sure, I shouldn't have to feel like grateful, but I am. So that's all I've got to say on the subject now, which is, if anything like this, you know, if you are unlucky enough to experience anything like this, please don't feel embarrassed or scared to report it officially. And if you unfortunately do not get met with the same support that I did by the officials, keep going higher. Ask to speak to people's superiors, ask to speak to journalists, keep putting it out there, because it's not okay. and we need the statistics, and we need the reporting, because apparently, you know, numbers mean everything. So if we can get the statistics out there, then hopefully we can continue to get people in power more aware of that, and hopefully coming up with some kind of solutions, which in my opinion is like a massive attitude shift towards women's bodies in general. But yeah, I'm sorry that it's a bit of a sad note. I debated whether or not to talk about this for quite a while, for like over a week. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just read some poetry. And then I was looking at all of this poetry, and somehow it just felt frivolous. And I thought, no, I will share what happened. And because maybe it will resonate with someone, and maybe it will be a very, very small way of trying to inspire change, I guess, in some small way. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up. Let's cheer up. I hope that you're okay. Let me know if you did take part in the Stashless 2020 or 21 exercises, and if you've got any other recommendations for stash downing patterns, like this one was really good. I would like to say a massive thank you again to all of my supporters on Patreon. This month I've got something extra special for my Crimson Queens, which is a really fabulous collaboration that I've been doing with the wonderful and talented Emily Majorian. Emily is a member of our Ravelry group and a viewer, and Emily is a digital illustrator that does wonderfully creepy drawings. And Emily got in touch to see if I would like her to do any drawings for me, and after a little bit of discussion we came up with the idea of creating an illustration of my window of plants as a way to thank my wonderful supporters on Patreon, especially my Crimson Queens. And a shout out this month to my Crimson Queens, who are my top level supporters. Thank you so much, Shelley. Thank you to Jamie Pung. Thank you, Angie Scheitel. If you enjoy the Crimson Stitchery and everything that I'm doing with it, then you might enjoy becoming a patron as well over on Patreon. There are a whole bunch of benefits that you can enjoy. There are behind the scenes blog posts, there's access to a Discord server, and there's other things like receiving previews of my newest patterns, extra videos and vlogs, and access to a quarterly knit night. Head over to patreon.com/The Crimson Stitchery to check out my creator page and choose the right benefits for you. If you've enjoyed this video, do hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the Crimson Stitchery here on YouTube already if you haven't done so. Take care everyone, happy knitting, I hope that you are keeping well, and I'll speak to you again sometime soon. Bye!